Hey, what's going on, everybody? So we just wrapped up doing interviews with head coach Manny Diaz, as well as players Keyshawn Smith, Navaughn Donaldson, and Jared Harrison-Hunt. I will get into some of the things that they had to say, but first I want to get into my observations from practice. We were able to watch about half of practice, film about half of that, so about 45 minutes we were out there today. So today was the 12th practice. It's the second one that we've seen this week, and I do want to note that left tackle Zion Nelson and defensive tackle Nessa Jade Silvera, neither of them were out there at practice today once again. So this happened earlier this week as well when we were out there, and Manny Diaz did talk about both of them. He addressed them and he said that they're both experiencing soreness. However, he said they're out because of a precaution. He noted that neither of them have had surgery and did say he expects them both being at practice next week once they start doing some preparation for the Alabama game. So just want to make those notes. Again, with Zion Nelson not out there, Jared Williams handled the first team reps at left tackle, DJ Scaife at right tackle. And I think those are two guys that you definitely have to keep an eye on, because if Zion's not ready, it's going to be those guys. And Jared Williams started at Miami last year, his first season at UM, at right tackle. He does have a little bit of experience at left tackle, starting twice while at Houston, but he's a seventh-year guy. He's a guy that has a lot of experience, been around college football. So if Zion's not able to play, it's a big opportunity for Jared there on the left side. And I do think that's who they would go with, even though they've got time to go with another option. If they wanted to go with DJ Scaife there, or if they wanted to move Navaughn Donaldson back to tackle, but I just don't see that happening. And speaking of Navaughn, he did talk about today about how great he feels. And I think it's very obvious when you watch him play. He's moving well, moving with intensity. He's doing a good job out there, and he's looking lighter on his feet. And he talked about that, about all the work he's done to get his weight down, to be more athletic. And look, he said there was a time because of his knee injury, he wasn't doing anything on his feet for about 6 months. So from that point to where he's at now, I think it's great. I know he's really excited about the season. And yes, I do expect him to be the right guard at this point, because they've been working him there primarily all fall camp with Jalen Rivers at left guard. So definitely a lot of positives with Navaughn today. I thought he looked good once again. He's doing a good job, and the teammates, his players, are saying how good he looks, and they're happy for him. So I think it's a good sign that Navaughn's doing well, even though you've got a guy injured with Zion right now. So the offensive line does not have as much depth as it had coming, what you thought coming into it, because John Campbell's out with a knee injury, and they're dealing with stuff with Zion. So it's just some things to watch for. And then they've got the second unit has a couple guys that have some experience, some veteran guys, and Kylian Herbert and Salante Hillary, but also has some young guys mixed in there too, like Lawrence Seymour. So it's kind of that second unit doesn't have as many guys that you can automatically go to the way you thought you might had. Because coming into it, they had 9 guys who had started games in their careers. That includes Justice from UNLV, who's primarily been at right tackle, the second team right tackle during fall camp. Some other observations, in addition to the injury stuff that stood out to me today, I think I just want to talk about cornerback a little bit. This is the second day that we've seen, Corey Couch and DJ Ivey getting those first team reps. That does not mean that Tyreek Stevenson or Al Blades Jr. will not be in the mix. Certainly the way offenses run their offensive sets, a lot of them do put multiple receivers out there, so you will see multiple cornerbacks out there to counteract that. So I think they're all going to play. I think they all bring something different to the table. I do think Al Blades Jr. is coming along, once again doing team activities, once again staying after practice. I thought that was another good sign for him, because once again, it's a guy to me that looks like he's definitely trying to get ready for that opener, as opposed to maybe easing himself back into the season. So I do expect Al to be ready, because I think it looks like he's doing all the things necessary to be ready. And I think, the thing to talk about maybe with Tyreek Stevenson is he's a guy that provides versatility there in the secondary. He is a bigger corner. Everyone knows that, but he did talk about how he can move in. He's been playing a little nickel, little slot stuff that he did, kind of what he did a little bit at Georgia, but just, they will be able to move him around if they need to. But as of now, I would not be surprised at all if it stays with DJ and to Corey. Again, depending on matchups, depending on what Alabama decides to go with their wide receivers, maybe if they go with a bigger receiver, maybe they do want to put Tyreek there, or maybe it's just an adjustment that goes as the game goes along. So definitely just some things to watch for there. once again at linebacker, Kiantra Smith, Corey Flagg. I do think that over the summer, maybe you were expecting these two guys to kind of emerge a little bit, and I think maybe you're starting to see that. Kiantra had that good scrimmage. Last scrimmage, piled up some stats, so they do like his ability there, and Corey's a guy that appears that he's coming along and kind of handling that spot there. Speaking of scrimmage, Miami had their first one earlier this week. They are slated to have their second one on Saturday. Once again, it will be closed, and as far as we know, it's just going to be these two scrimmages before they start really getting ready for Alabama week. Certainly they've been getting ready for Alabama. It's just the way teams approach fall camp. They put a lot of time into doing drills and improving themselves rather than really practicing what the opponent does, and that starts to change as it gets closer once you start to get to those 2 weeks. So definitely something to watch for there. A few things that I noticed with the offense today is I do want to start with Charleston Rambo. I mentioned it the other day that it just feels like he's kind of dealing with a little bit of the drops as far as as far as when we are out there. Certainly all receivers do drop balls and things like that, but once again, I saw in a drill that he dropped a pass and coach made him do the rep over again. Now he bounced back and got it right, but you just don't want to see your top receiver, one of those top 3 receivers, really struggling. So it's just something to watch for moving forward, and hopefully it's something that he can get corrected, particularly as it gets closer to the game. As far as Mike Harley, once again, at the beginning of practice, before we were able to start filming, he was doing a lot of work on his own in terms of with the trainer, getting right, kind of just stretching out, doing things like that. He wasn't out there right at the beginning when we at practice as he was working on getting ready. However, later on he did participate in drills, so he was out there and he looked okay when he was running. So we did see him out there. I do want to mention that. I don't want it to, but I do think once again he is someone to watch for, because you want him to be at full strength. Hopefully it's nothing too big. If it's something nagging, hopefully that they really take care of it before it gets worse. But certainly now they're on that timetable as it's getting closer to the game. So it's just something to pay attention to. For example, with the scrimmage on Saturday, it's just speculation because I didn't ask after practice with Coach Diaz, but it wouldn't surprise me if a guy like Mike Harley, because he's dealing with a little bit, maybe he's not going to participate in the scrimmage. It wouldn't surprise me at all. Again, just speculating, just kind of thinking a little bit out loud a little bit. So Keyshawn Smith, he spoke afterwards, after practice. I had a question to Keyshawn, and I kind of, my questions were a little bit off today. It's just one of those things. I felt like I wasn't asking good questions. But basically I was trying to ask about his drop situation, because when we are out there, we just don't see him drop. He seems very sure-handed. We don't see him drop very many passes. Now, once again, we're not out there all the time. We're not at every practice. But I did ask maybe just, what does he attribute that to? What is he, where's it come from? Is it his off-season work? Is it something he's really been concentrating on? And he just said he just knows that it's very important. Coach Likens is really on them about drops. And he also said that he's been working a lot on the jugs machine, like most receivers. And then he said, after this interview session, I'm going to go to the jugs machine. So I find that to be notable, because the other day I posted a video of Bubba Bolden working out at the jugs machine. And sometimes people look at things about maybe why other videos aren't there, maybe why certain guys aren't talked about just in general, but maybe this is just an example. Look, we're not there all the time. We don't get everything, and guys are putting in the work. So just because you don't see about it or hear about it, and we're doing our best to provide as much coverage as possible, but this was a perfect example of them, of guys do put in that extra work, even though you maybe haven't heard about it yet. So just want to make sure we note that, and guys are working hard. So as other things with the offense, running backs, they were back out there again. Cameron Harris took that first team rep on team drills. However, during other drills, position drills, they did rotate it a little bit. Don Chaney Jr. was out there, as Jalen Knighton was too, but Don and Cam have been kind of dealing with a little bit of injury. They were in the orange practice jersey once again for the second day that we've seen this week. However, once again, the team was in shorts. So you wonder if they're in full pads. Are they getting scaled back? It's hard to say because we're not out there during these times, at least this week. So we will definitely monitor that. But I know in the past, Coach Diaz has spoken confidently about these guys, that when they're allowed to be hit, they will take hits and things like that. So as far as the defense, kind of jumping around a little bit, I want to make sure I get to Jared Harrison-Hunt. He certainly becomes an elevated role guy because if his injury does linger on, Jared's that next man up. That's who's been taking Nesta's spot on the first team. And this is year 3 for Jared. And we've all seen Jared flash in the first 2 seasons at times. Last year was a little stop and go with his playing time. He got that start and then wasn't able to play after that, and then kind of got back in the mix. But anyways, one thing when he was looking back on last season, he just kind of said he didn't realize it was going to go that way. And basically he feels like he's been relying on his athleticism in his first 2 years, particularly last year because he got a little bit more playing time. And he said in the offseason he really focused on technique, really understanding what the offense is trying to do. I find that to be very encouraging because you want to hear those things from a player going into year 3 as they get older, as they look for an elevated role. So it's good to see, good to hear. Also, Jared noted that he said in the spring he was about 275, says he's 285 right now, feels good with that weight. I think and I've mentioned it before, but just watching him in drills, I think he's doing a good job of exploding. I think he's doing a good job of utilizing his quickness in drills. He seems to be doing them with a purpose, and I think he always liked that. I think sometimes guys, both sides of the ball, sometimes can go through the motion at times, but I do get that sense from Jared that he's really putting in that effort, really wants to have a good season, and I think this is a really good opportunity for him to not only get those first team reps, but really earn his way into a large role. Even though we are expecting that, I think it's important for him to do well in practices to really gain that trust that he can be a reliable player for a number of snaps. So he's definitely looking to do well there. I found this question to be interesting, and sometimes we do ask players about this, but he was asked if he wants to start, if it matters to him to start. And over the years, I've always found this question to be interesting because sometimes guys will say, look, I just want to play. It doesn't matter who starts. But look, sometimes guys will say, frankly, yes, I want to be the starter. I want to be the guy that everybody can count on. So Jared just said he wants to play, and I do understand what he's saying. I think because last year was so stop and go, I think he's looking at this year as he just wants to be on the field. And I think if he gets enough snaps, he's going to do well with that right mentality. And I definitely think he can have a good season for them. So definitely something to watch for there. I think that's going to wrap everything up. We kind of touched on both sides of the ball, just a little bit of notes about some guys, maybe some observations, and also some of the things that they said after practice. Once again, they're going to scrimmage on Saturday. We'll have information on the scrimmage as soon as they release it, but unfortunately it's a closed practice, closed scrimmage. We won't be out there, but definitely stay locked into InsideTheU.com for plenty of more coverage, more information, more in-depth information on the team. Shout out to everybody that enjoys watching these instant reaction videos. I'm trying my best out here to bring you as much information as possible. So thanks again for watching, and take care.